I think it's officially tradition. Reacting to crash videos, we got to start it with a beverage. This time, it's a wonderful iced latte, beans from Congo. Let's roll the intro and we'll get into it. Welcome to Reacting to Crash Videos Part 2. If you missed Part 1, rewind, go check it out. As always, in this video series, our goal is to look at old crash videos that are floating around on the net, kind of debunk some certain misconceptions about paramotors falling out of the sky tragically, and kind of learn something from what went wrong. I appreciate everyone that shared crash videos online, and if you have any you'd like to submit, make sure you email them down below or post them in the comments, and I'll consider them for the next Reacting to Crash videos. Before we get into it, I want to remind you guys, we are giving away this beautiful carbon fiber aviator paramotor helmet. Any order placed on tuckergott.com, like this beautiful Risky Biscuits definition t-shirt, will automatically enter you into the drawing. After May 10th, we're gonna do the drawing and one of you guys will go home with this beautiful $1,350 carbon fiber helmet. So make sure you check that out. Link for everything is down in the description below. See the full terms and conditions, official rules. All right, so let's jump into it. I've got 5 crash videos to share with you guys today. The first one, I'm gonna warn you, is pretty bad. Now, as always, I'm just making assumptions based off of the video that I can see here. The big lesson is that this pilot seemed like he knew absolutely nothing about what he was doing. It's as if you took Joe Schmo from the street, gave him a paramotor and put him in the sky. And this is an extreme example of why I highly recommend training. You never know what could go wrong. And this is an extreme example of someone who just took to the sky and pretty much the worst possible thing happened. So let's roll the clip. All right, so this one starts out with Dude Man launching and some really high winds. It looks like his launch goes pretty well. He gets off the ground, but immediately you can see he's not going anywhere except for up. The wind's so strong, he's not penetrating and he's just going up like an elevator. He's hanging out of his harness and he can't get in his seat, which is a sign that either something's wrong or he doesn't know what he's doing. He continues to climb and it seems as if he's making no input to the wing. He's just dangling there and holding full power. So as he continues to climb, you can see he's got a little bit of an oscillation going on. He's rocking back and forth and slowly turning downwind. That oscillation progresses and now it turns into a pitching oscillation. He's back and then forward and then back again. And somewhere around here, he's facing the sky and wing surges ahead of him. And if you look really close, you can see whatever happened right there. Now his legs are spinning around and around. He's getting line twist, like lots of line twist. And as that progresses, he enters a spiral and his legs are still spinning. And that's a sight you never want to see. He entered a steep spiral, horizontal level with the wing and impacted the ground. Now, all the reports I've found on this video claim that the pilot was actually okay. When I first saw this, I assumed it must have been a fatality, but they claim that he actually landed in some thick brush and survived this whole accident. There's really not one thing that you can pinpoint that this guy did wrong except for everything. Long story short, what happened was an oscillation somehow turned into a line twist situation where he was spinning around, and it seems as if as that line twist got worse and worse, it started pulling more on one brake than the other. And you can see, as his legs are going around and around, he enters a spiral and that spiral just gets progressively worse. And you get to pretty much worst case scenario pointed right at the ground and nothing he can really do. Other than if he had a reserve, he could have tossed it, but judging by his experience level, he probably didn't know how to use a reserve or didn't even have one on board. The big lessons I would take away from this is 1, get training from a reputable instructor. My recommendations are Aviator PPG and Team Fly Halo. Check them out in the description below. 2, let's just say he was an experienced pilot and something was malfunctioning, have a reserve. In this case, entering line twists like that, he could have thrown a reserve and he could have like saved his day even more. All right, let's move on to clip number 2. This came from Gabriel, and he titled it Brazil Paramotor Crashes. So let's take a look at this first clip. So Dude Man is launching kind of on a coastal situation. Looks like he's flying a Snake or a Snake XX. This is a pretty hot slalom glider, pretty similar to the wing that I fly, and he's just going at it. You can see he's flying really aggressively, nearly hits those trees, pitches up, and starts to do the high-powered, low-altitude wing-over maneuver. Just slaloming, if that's a word, back and forth. This is something near and dear to me because I like doing this a lot. But eventually, you can see he takes it a little bit too far and freaking hooks this one right here too high and smack. Doesn't have the altitude to recover. His buddies run over to him and help him out of the water. Luckily, he was right next to that rock bank. If he was 10 or 20 feet further, he would have hit those rocks. 2 things I would take out of this situation is 1, just being overconfident, flying beyond your ability. From what I can see here, it looks like 100% pilot error. He's just going at it, getting real aggressive, and misjudges one of his turns, gets a little bit too inverted. You've got no altitude and a lot of energy, and it just ends up plowing into the water. Second thing I would take from this is the importance of flotation. Flying near the water, it's hard to tell in this situation if he had it or not, but you never know. You might end up in the water, and if you're anywhere near water, have power floats or some sort of flotation on your paramotor or your body, because that will really save you. Luckily, his friends were here to help him, but if he was alone and maybe knocked unconscious from that massive impact, he really would have needed that flotation. All right, let's move on to the next clip, number 3. This one is also from Gabriel. Looks like a similar kind of situation, except this guy's got his buddy in a Speedo in the background spotting him. That's the first problem. And he's just going for it. Almost a nice launch. Oh, but he clips part of that building or a tree, and Speedo guy to the rescue. Around the back they go, and it appears like everyone is okay. So the big takeaway I would get from this one is just spatial awareness as a beginner. When you're first learning how to fly a paramotor and learning the whole launch sequence, your mind is literally in sensory overload. You've got brakes, you've got A's, you've got throttle, you've got running, you've got weight shift, you've got everything going on all at once. You've got the motor on your back shaking, the loud noises. It's intimidating and it's scary, and even like the most skilled people will experience sensory overload for the first few times they do a paramotor launch. You can see that as he progresses through this launch, his reverse inflation's really good, but as he starts running, he's got arms out like this. Not very good form. You want to be more 90 degrees and piston-like movement, but he's just going for it. He clearly doesn't have the best wing control because he gets lifted up for a second and then drop back down, kind of kicks the ground and keeps going. But the big lesson is he's not aware of what's in front of him and where his wing is at in relation to the tree/house to his left. I see it very often, people launching like at the park where there's a lot of obstructions. You're so focused on your wing and your form and everything, it is really difficult to see in front of you and see that there's a goal or a set of bleachers that you're about to hit. The big thing is just find a big open space that you don't even have to worry about that sort of stuff as a beginner, especially trees to climb out around. Just find somewhere that's open space and make life easy for yourself. Second, try to be as spatially aware as you can, and if you see something coming, just abort early. Don't get in the air and then hit it and then crash. It's easier to just abort before you're even close to that obstacle, reset, it's a hassle, but hey, you didn't crash. All right, let's go on to clip number 4. Now this one is a tandem trike launch. Let's tune in. So tandem trike dude inflates his wing, comes up kind of off center, so he takes a moment to get it back overhead. It's pitching, doesn't have the best control over it, and as he commits on power, he kind of realizes he's run out of runway and legitimately just plows straight into the forest edge. So once again, the lesson of spatial awareness comes in here. He's worried about his wingtip and getting his wing overhead and not really looking at what's ahead of him. So he's going through his launch, wings off center, gets it upright, but now ready to commit. How much space does he have? He probably didn't really know until it was too late. Once again, having a really big open space to do your launch is critical, especially as a beginner when you don't have the best spatial awareness of what's going on. This site was obviously way too small to have any bit of margin for error. It would have to go perfectly smooth on launch to get up in this tight little field. Second thing to take away is, as a tandem pilot, my buddy Eric Farewell from Aviator always says, as a tandem pilot, you are like fully responsible for that person's life, and you better be on your A game. There's definitely a shift in the risk you take as a solo pilot, just going out, and if you hurt yourself, you hurt yourself. But when you take a passenger, one, you have to be really skilled, you have to be highly trained, and you can't take any bit of risk because that person is relying on you to be a responsible pilot. So obviously this problem started before he even started the launch. Doing a tandem launch like that in such a small space, there was zero margin for error. All right, let's move on to clip number 5, our last clip of the video. This one is a spin situation. So here you can see Dude Man just flying, looks like he's into the wind, and all of a sudden he decides to pull a ton of brake. Oh! Spins his glider, does a 180, and as he's recovering, he's too low and just smacks the ground really hard. So spinning a glider is something you never want to do accidentally. Basically what happens is if you pull a ton of brake really fast and aggressively on one side of your wing, it'll end up pretty much stalling that side and the glider just spins around. And the way to prevent that is good form. So basically you're flying along and you want to make a left turn, you look left, gets your body set up, it gives you a visual of what's to your left, you lean, engaging weight shift first, and then you turn. And when you pull, you do it in a nice progressive, slow movement. If you're just flying and you just bury one brake, that's the recipe to pretty much spin your glider, and you don't want to do that. You can tell in the clip, Dude Man's just flying along straight, and then all in one movement, he just basically brings one arm down to his thigh. And on pretty much any glider, if you're pulling that much brake, full extent down to your leg, that's not good. Something is gonna happen and your glider's probably gonna spin. Gliders don't take that much travel to do a normal turn. So kind of my point of doing this video series is, to an untrained eye, that might just look like his wing fell out of the sky and dove and he crashed. But really, when you break it down, it was something that he as a pilot did to initiate the glider to spin that he shouldn't have done. All right, so that's my 5 clips for today. If you've got any videos you want me to check out, leave them in the comments below. Drop a like if you liked the video. I'm gonna keep this series going for as long as I can. A lot of you guys gave great feedback on the first one, so I really appreciate that. As always, if you see something different that I didn't see, feel free to comment down below, start a discussion on what you think went wrong. I'm not always right. This is just my first impressions from viewing a YouTube video. Also, before we go, make sure you get that order in so you can have a chance at winning this beautiful shiny Aviator Paramotor helmet. I'm still working on a long-term review with this guy. Gonna be flying with it more and testing out all the features, so stay tuned for that. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Till the next one, peace.